Welcome to today's lesson on graphing conic sections. And the conic section that we're going to graph today in question is circles. So I wanted to start off by talking with you guys about the standard formula of what the equation of a circle looks like. So let's go ahead and let's take that standard form here. Okay, so I'm going to write down standard form for the equation of a circle. And here's what the standard form looks like. Okay, it's x minus h squared, all right, plus y minus k squared. And it's always going to go ahead and it's going to equal your radius squared. Okay, so this is the standard form. And out of this standard form, what I want you to recognize is I want you to recognize that the center of the circle is at h comma k, and your radius, all right, is equal to the square root of your r squared. Okay, so if we take a look here at this first one, it's x squared plus y squared is equal to 9. Okay, now if we just wanted to take a look at this, if I made my y's 0, okay, so let's say I went ahead and I made my y's 0, you're going to have two ordered pairs that you can actually put in here. Okay, so if your y was 0, you'd actually have this. X squared is equal to 9. And you know that what value goes in here? Well, you take the square root of both sides. You end up with 3 here. You also end up with negative 3. Because you could put 3 times 3 gives you 9. You could also put negative 3 times negative 3 gives you 9. So you could actually take and graph that of negative 3 comma 0 and 3 comma 0. And here's 2 points that would actually be on your circle. Okay? If we wanted to, we could also make my x equal to 0. And there's going to be 2 ordered pairs that we can find as well. So you cross off your x, and you'd have y squared is equal to 9. And you could actually put in a 3, or you could put in a negative 3 as well. Okay? So we'd actually take and put in those ordered pairs. You have 0 comma 3 and 0 comma negative 3. Okay? So right now, what we're looking at is we could actually go ahead and draw this circle in. I'd start right here at the origin, and I'd go ahead and make that circle, and it has a radius of 3. So that's what that circle would look like. Okay? Now, using this as like standard form, really what you have is you have a 0, your center point for this, all right? You have no h value here. So your center is going to be 0, comma, you have no k value here, so it's 0, comma 0. Your radius, your r squared, is equal to 9. So you know your radius is equal to the square root of that, which is 3. So you could actually go ahead and use this, and you could use this as a shortcut to go ahead and graph. Your center is at 0, comma 0. You'd go up 3, over 3, down 3, right 3, and you'd be able to graph your circle. Okay? So let's take a look at the second one here. All right? Center point. All right? H comma K. You notice with your x, there is no h, put a 0. With your y, there is no k, put a 0. Your radius is going to equal the square root of 36, which is 6. I can put my center point in at the origin, okay? And then in every direction, I'm going to go up 6, I'm going to go left 6, I'm going to go down 6, and I'm going to go right 6. Now I'm going to go ahead and construct my circle using those points. I'm going to go to my center here, and I'm going to go ahead and make my circle with a radius of 6. Okay? Now, sometimes we don't have this standard form where my center is at 0, comma 0. We actually have an h and a k, like these ones right here. Okay? So what I want you to recognize in this is to identify your center. It is h, comma, k. Okay? So what you do is you actually take your center, and you have a negative 1 in here. All right? So when you take it out, it's actually a positive 1. And you have a, all right, positive 2 right here, which would be y minus negative 2. So your k value is really negative 2. So you're going to go put your center in at 1, negative 2. And then you want to take and find your radius, which is just the square root of 16. So your radius is going to be 4 units. Okay? So from this center point now, I'm going to go up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. From the center point, I'm going to go left 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to go right 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can construct my circle now because I have put in my radius of 4. Okay? So that's what your circle should look like. This one, your center point, all right, as we mentioned, it is at 1, comma, -2, and your radius is 4 units. Okay, so nothing different there. You just make sure that you take the circle, and instead of having the center at the origin, you shift it over 1 and then down 2 and run your radius of 4 there. Okay, this one, all right, number 5, not much different than what we've looked at before, except for the radius, okay? Center point. Remember, take the opposite of what you see, all right? So you end up with a -2 and a -2. Your radius is the square root of 22. Unfortunately, 22 is not a perfect square, all right? So we can't take and get a nice whole number out of that. So we're going to leave it as a square root of 22. Okay, I'm going to go identify my center in quadrant 3. 1, 2, down 2. Here's my center point. Now, here's what I want you to recognize about your radius. Okay, we know the square root of 16. We know the square root of 25. 22 falls somewhere in the middle of that. This is 4. This is 5. So we end up with the square root of 22 is going to be in between 4 and 5. Okay? So we know it's probably closer to 5, so I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 5, and I'm going to go a little less than that. Because if we type this in a calculator, we actually get 4.6, 64 or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and keep doing the same thing. I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to go almost to 5. We're going to make a point. Left, 1, 2, 3, 4. Make a point close to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make a point close to 5. And when we construct our circle now, all right, we have a radius of 4.6 or so. Okay, so don't worry, square root of 7, we know it's close to the square root of 9, 2 point something, so you make your radius 2 point, whatever that comes out to be. Okay, now, these ones want me to go ahead and take my given information, and it wants me to write it in standard form. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. So let's use this information right here. I got my h value, I got my k value, and I have my r value. So I'm going to take and substitute this stuff into my standard form. So I have x minus -6 squared plus y minus -9 squared, gotta close that parenthesis, is equal to my r squared. So we look at this, two negatives next to each other, becomes x plus 6 squared plus y plus 9 squared is equal to 25. And we've taken that and written my equation in standard form. Okay? Now, this one below, number 9, is a little different. You have your h value and you have your k value are 0 and 0. So really, if you were to write that, it would be x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared, all right, is equal to your r squared. So really, if you think about it, x minus 0, it's the same thing as, what's 5 minus 0? Well, it's 5. What's 7 minus 0? It's 7. So x minus 0 is really just this, x squared plus y squared, and it's equal to r squared. However, in this one, it doesn't give me that r. All it gives me is it gives me a point on my circle. Luckily, we know that the circle starts here at the origin, and a point on this is -9. So I go to the left 9, I go down 10. So if I were to go ahead and construct this circle, it would, kind of look something like this, But I would go over 9 and down 10. So I have, all right, over 9, down 10. Could I find right now my radius right here? I could, because I know that what I've made here is I've made a right triangle. So if I wanted to find my r, all I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to do Pythagorean theorem. 9 squared plus 10 squared is equal to r squared. 81 plus 100 is equal to r squared. So I get 181 is equal to r squared. Okay? If we go ahead and take the square root of 181, we end up with, well, you know what? We don't even have to take the square root of that. All right? That would actually give us this radius value if we took the square root of it. We know in my standard form, I want r squared. So I can just take now and write this equation as x squared plus y squared is equal to my r squared value of 181. And that's the equation of a circle that has a point at -9, -10, with the center at 0, 0. Okay? Now, one last thing I want to talk about today is I want to talk about the idea of taking this, where we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms set equal to 0, and writing it into standard form for a circle. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. So really what happens is we kind of organize in standard form. Put all your x's together, put all your y's together, and move any constants to the other side. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to put them together. X squared plus 16x. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it together. All right? Plus, now I'm going to take and I'm going to put the y squared with my y. So I'm going to end up with y squared plus 30y. And it's going to equal, I'm going to take this right here, and I'm going to move it that way. So it's going to equal negative 273. All right? Now, this is where that whole idea of completing the square comes into play, okay, where you need to go ahead and write a binomial that's squared, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this number, 16, and I'm going to cut it in half. 16 divided by 2 gives you 8, and I'm going to square that to put a plus 64 right here in this blank spot, okay? Now, when completing the square, whatever you do to one side, you also have to take and do to the other side, okay? So I added a 64 here. This one, take 30, divide it in half, so you end up with 15. All right, if you square that, you get plus 225. So I'm also going to add 225 to the other side. Okay? Now, what happens is if you were to factor this, factors of 64 that could get you to 16 are a positive 8 and a positive 8. So it's x plus 8 times x plus 8, which is really just x plus 8 squared. Okay? Let me actually erase that. I want to move this in closer. All right, so we got x plus 8 squared, which matches up with the idea of x minus 8 squared. All right? This one right here, square root of 225 is 15, so I'm going to go with y plus 15 squared. And now it's going to equal all of this added together. And if we did 225 plus 264, we get 289. Subtract 273, we end up with 16. So this now is in the equation, standard form equation for a circle, where we have a center, all right, of my circle is going to be at -8, comma -15. And the radius of this circle, if we take the square root of my r squared, is going to go ahead and it's going to give me 4. Okay? So that's using the completing the square to go ahead and turn it into standard form. So go ahead and continue with the next examples, 12, 13, 14. But this is pretty much the basics, guys, of graphing our first conic section, the circle in standard form. Right?